Aloha guys, Joe Tunney visiting my very good friends at BMW of Hawaii in the beautiful city of Kona on the big island of Hawaii. And today we're taking a look at the all-new 2021 BMW 4 Series. This one being the 2021 BMW 430i. And I'll tell you a little story. And I know that the front end is uniquely polarizing on the 2021 4 Series. Feel free, in fact, to comment below if it's a thumbs up or thumbs down aesthetically in your opinion. But I wanted to share the story about why it is the way that it is. And so 1933, BMW comes out with the new 303, and their primary exterior designer, Fritz Fielder, decided to create what's called the kidney grille. It's called that to this very day. The reason that he did it is that by putting a piece of metal between two grills rather than having one grill, he increased the aerodynamic effect of air coming over the front end of the car. BMW, as you well know, was an airplane manufacturer before they became a car manufacturer. In fact, to this day, their logo is called the propeller, even though it represents the Bavarian flag. The point of it is that they were very into aerodynamics long before many other brands were. Well, after 1933, they came out with the 328. So BMW's been calling their cars by the same names going back many, many decades, if not generations. The 328 was their most successful race car to date, and it had a more exaggerated form of that kidney grille. Well, that car was extremely popular in racing and did very, very well, but it also identified BMW to people who didn't know the brand. You'd know that kidney grille from a mile away. And so that kidney grille became the distinctive feature of all BMWs forevermore. It gave their cars kind of a sinister look that other cars simply didn't have. And over the years, that kidney grille has evolved. In fact, in the Chris Bangle years, not only did it grow, it kind of went sideways, and so it's lost its kidney proportions altogether. But these days, since 2011, when BMW showcased what they called the 328 HOMMAGE, and that was kind of a throwback slash futuristic version of what the brand might do, I think everybody became aware that BMW is going to go back to its traditional roots stylistically. And that's what they've done now. This is the first generation to really have this more pronounced look, and you're starting to see it also in their big sport utilities. But this is a throwback to how the brand used to be. And I think that the logic is they simply want you to know a BMW from a mile away, the way that it always has been. BMW has been accused of being a little bit anonymous stylistically over the past 10 or 20 years, and I think they're going back in an appropriate direction to have their more avant-garde look become the status quo here throughout the brand. We're going to take a look at this car, and I'm going to pop the hood, and we're going to start there and take a look at the engine. And so, although this is a new car, BMW is still using its CLAR or cluster architecture design, where one car really is the underpinnings for everything throughout the product lineup. And then it also uses what are called modular engines. Modular engines means that each piece forms a module that can be made bigger or smaller. Each piston in this case is about half of a liter. So if I take 4 of them, it's an inline 4-cylinder that is 2 liters, and that's what this one is here. 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. You'll see it says twin power turbo. You'll see twin scroll turbo. However, it is a single turbocharger, and it's been that way for quite some time. If you get the M440i, and that might designate, you would think, a 4-liter engine. It's actually a 3-liter engine, and so 3 liters would be 6 cylinders in line with a single turbocharger and a 48 volt battery, and that gives the car 382 horsepower. That's more cutting edge technology than the more basic 430i has. but I think that your better value is in the 430 over the M440. M440 faster, has a lot of neat things going for it, but at under $50,000 MSRP with some nice features attached to it, I think the 430i is where my money would go. Let's take a look around. Now, even though this is a two-door variation of the 3 Series, it's actually 2 inches longer than the 3 Series is. It's 2 inches lower, and it also is 1 inch wider. Now, it has the familiar setup as far as the suspension goes. It's a strut front suspension with a multi-link rear suspension. Now, the 4 Series, unlike the 3 Series, even though it sits lower and it has a much lower center of gravity than the 3 Series, the springs are still tighter and the dampeners are also tighter, which gives it a harder, firmer ride. So that's not up to everybody's taste sometimes, and so that might be a good reason for you to consider the 3 Series over the 4 Series. If you are the kind of person who, when you were a kid, purposely lowered your cars and you like to trick them out and make them your way because you wanted a more visceral type of ride, then this is definitely going to be the ticket for you. Now, taking a look along the profile, again, it's actually quite long for being a compact 2-door car. 112.2 inch wheelbase, so it actually has a very impressive length to the wheelbase. Let me jump inside. So once you're inside, it's going to look and feel like BMWs have felt for quite some time. A lot of people are going to be critical of that. They're going to say, well, if you've got this bold, daring new look on the outside, why don't you have a bold, daring look on the inside? Again, it really doesn't have a bold, daring look. This is a throwback to how BMW saw itself almost 90 years ago, and the interior is kind of the look of BMW interiors going back decades. And so I think that BMW is simply being true to its roots. However, the seats themselves are quite comfortable. The steering wheel design is excellent. The visibility of all the gauges and displays, super simple to use. Kind of basic, I totally get that, but at the same time, extremely practical and stylish and actually quite nice. Take a look in back. So if you followed my videos over the years, you'll know that just about my favorite car ever made is the 2003 through 2007 BMW G35 Coupe. In fact, the G35 Coupe has the exact same 112.2 inch wheelbase that the 2021 430i has. Just like the Infiniti G35 Coupe from years past, when I sit in the back seat, there really isn't tons of room unless I have the front seat all the way up. As I can see in the passenger side, I wouldn't even be able to get in. There's just no leg room in the back with the seat all the way back, despite that long wheelbase. Also, the headroom really is a little bit scrunched compared to the 3 Series. However, I'm 6 feet tall, 180 pounds, and I'm actually comfortable as far as headroom goes. So you need to know yourself on this one. If you're the kind of person like me, 6 feet tall or even taller than 6 feet tall, you're going to have the driver's seat back pretty far, which means your people in the back seat are going to be totally miserable. However, if you have your seat in a more normal position, yeah, you should be fine with passengers who aren't too tall in the back. Let's take a look in the trunk. Push button trunk release, and it is quite spacious. And so even though it is a compact car and a 2-door compact car at that, there's a ton of room in the trunk. The seats fold down to open it up to even more space. Well lined, well sorted out. Again, kind of boring really, not anything cutting edge or avant-garde, just practical. Back when I was a kid, the word for that was Teutonic. Teutonic was like cars that came from Germany were just almost as if they were chiseled from a block of granite. They were perfect in every way. They weren't technological wizards. They didn't do things radically different than other cars did. They were just styled in a way that looked sophisticated and elegant. They performed adequately based on their design. If they were a sports car, they drove like a sports car. If they were a high-performance car, they drove like a high-performance car. They didn't try to be something above and beyond what they claimed to be. The 430i, to me, represents kind of the best of BMW. It's just a really cool car, a really nice car. Not a ton of power, but it drives fast. It's not going to set any records on the Autobahn taking turns or anything like that. It's not a cross, you know, the kind of racing that people do on the weekends where, you know, you're doing some radical stuff. It's not that kind of car. It's just a great car that does a lot of things well. Let's jump inside, take it for a drive. So one thing you'll notice about the 2021 4 Series is that it is really quiet inside. It also feels extraordinarily well built. No creaks or no give or compliance at all. It's quite taut and stout. The exhaust note is not altogether intrusive, even under open throttle. And although much is made of the suspension being a little bit rough and jostling, I don't know, it doesn't feel that bad at all. In fact, it feels fantastic. If you've ever driven like an old 320i from 1980, one of my favorite BMWs ever made, it has that same kind of personality to it. Just fast enough to be fast, just taut enough to be sporty, just everything enough to be perfect. And that's what this 430 feels like. We're gonna see how the acceleration feels and take it from 0 to 60 right about now. Or maybe 0 to 70. But regardless, it goes from 0 to whatever with great alacrity. It is really, really powerful. And it feels great doing it. Smooth, no body squat. You take turns, there's no body roll. Now we're gonna go over some really rough patch of road here, and we're gonna see how that suspension is on bad roads. And honestly, it's not that bad at all. It just feels great. I know it doesn't stand out in any one particular way except for its polarizing looks. However, I like the idea of BMW going back to its roots. I think BMW's kind of wandered off of what made them so great over the past many years. And I think this is the right direction for the brand to be headed back into. That when you see a BMW, you know in an instant you're looking at a BMW. I think that the 4 Series particularly represents everything that's best about this brand. And I like the idea of the 430i particularly. This exact car that we're in, equipped as you're seeing in front of you, has an MSRP of about $49,500. Well, that's not that much money for a nice new BMW that nobody else in town has, and it's not like it's the base model or anything like that. It's a 4 Series. It's cool. It's plenty big enough, especially for couples. If you're just two of you driving most of the time, I think you're going to be super pleased with this car. It's one that both my wife and I could be very excited to drive every single day. It's just an easy car to live with. It has plenty of space to do all the other category of stuff that we have. Even standard, it's got a really nice stereo system. This one has a great moonroof, paddle shifters, it looks cool. I even like the color combination. So if I was looking at a new BMW, my shortest possible list would probably be this exact car right here. This white 2021 BMW 430i, I think, is just about a perfect car. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to my friends at BMW of Hawaii, or reach out to me anytime at joeloveshawaii@gmail.com.